The key to becoming a good golfer often lies within 100 yards. Guys, just think for a second, how many shots do you play during a round of golf from within that distance? In today's video, we're going to help you exactly get better with that, help you get good at golf, lower your scores, and generally enjoy it that little bit more. Hi everyone, my name is James Robinson. Welcome back to Get Good at Golf. Make sure you do subscribe if you want to do just that. So how can I get better initially from within 100 yards? We have around 80 yards here, and the first port of call that I'm going to do is choose the correct club. I know so many golfers out here that would go 60 degree, 50-60 degree, because I know that if I hit a full 60 degree, that's going to be the right yardage. Unfortunately, that's not really the percentage play. You have to return exactly the perfect dynamic loft every single time to get the strike. The ball goes up in the air, you actually lose control of the ball in the elements. So call number one, just make sure you are using a little bit less loft. I like the idea of using a 50 or a 52, depending which wedge combination you have, maybe even a pitching wedge, and just swinging back a little bit less so you can control that club. Chris is going to give us a few drills for that towards the end of this video, so make sure you do stay tuned. But the other aspect is controlling dynamic loft and low point. So many golfers struggle with controlling, first of all, dynamic loft. If I've got 80 yards here and I want to try and play at 80 yards and I get loads of loft on there, you'll see I've struck that really well. I've took a nice divot, but the ball's just running 20-30 yards short. That's not the optimum for this distance. It's certainly not going to get as close as I could do, and it's actually going to start costing me shots. But you might go, oh, I don't understand what happened there, because the ball was here, so I've took a nice divot. I feel like I've got my weight transferring. I've even got some urethane on those grooves, so I struck it okay. But if you're not returning the correct and the same consistent dynamic loft every time, you're going to really struggle to hit those distances that you want. So what do I mean by correct dynamic loft? So generally, that's your static loft on this club. It's 52 degrees, as we said earlier. If I were to get that handle leaning forward, that would lower dynamic loft. And what I did with the shot that I showed you there, the handle was back. That's more dynamic loft. That's a very difficult way of hitting good golf shots from this distance. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to make sure the ball position is correct here. So the ball position wants to be in the middle of the stance. I'm not messing around moving it forwards. I'm not moving it back so that I can get loads of forward shaft lean here. I'm just going to have the ball in the middle, and that way I know it's going to be consistent, so I know what kind of attack angle I'm going to be putting into this golf ball. From here, I know that I'm going to have the handle ever so slightly forward at address. I don't want the handle pointing straight towards my belt buckle. I want it just pointing towards my left hip. From there, I load up to the top of the backswing. I don't have a massive weight shift like I would in a full swing. One of the big problems that we see when people are trying to get good with wedges is they'll stand really wide, which I know Chris is going to talk through in a second, drills for everybody, but also you see a really big weight shift here. Now, if you were to do this, you're going to try to hit that ball a very long way. This is what you do with driver, it's what you do with your long irons, your fairway woods. We don't need to do it with an 80 to 90 to 100 yard pitch shot. So I actually want to keep my weight on the left side a little bit more. The weight doesn't move too much. I'm just using my swing length to get the distance. So if I do that correctly, handle forward, weight forward, and I'm going to take it back to about 9 o'clock with my left arm, you can see there that ball's come out a lot lower, a lot more penetrating, and straight away that ball's gone the perfect distance onto that green. I didn't aim it very well, but it is actually perfectly flag high. And just by doing this, just by making sure you're flag high, you'll often be a lot closer than your friends who hit it straight down the flag. So the first shot that we hit that you can't actually see was straight down the flag. The second one was flag high, but a little bit to the right. When we get down there, that second shot, the one that's flag high, will be a 20 to 25 foot putt. The other one will be a 40 to 45 foot putt, and I know which one I'd rather have for my birdie. So make sure the key here is consistency. The key is keeping it exactly how you want it. Weight left, handle forward, and if I go to the same again, so 9 o'clock, you can see again a much lower ball flight. That one should land nice and soft and then release down towards that flag. So again here, I've hit a shot that's flag high. That one was a little bit better control of the club face. That's going to help you by controlling that dynamic loft. How do I get good with wedges? That's how Now time for some drills so you can do it yourself.
So guys, great points there from James. Obviously this area of the game is something that you really need to work on. If you're looking to get to a single figure handicap, if you're just looking to get your scores down, then you need to improve this, because how many times we see people miss the green from here, miss-strike it, you know, you might finally get a good drive away, it's took you a few holes to warm up, you hit a great one, you've only got 100 yards and you've only got 80 yards and you've only got 70 yards in, and we duff it and we've got 40 yards still into the green. So practicing this is essential, and you can do this on the driving range nice and easy. But the biggest thing, once we've got this set up, so when we've got the stance a little bit narrower, we've got that left foot turned out to help us get through, we've also got the weight a little bit on the left hand side to start with, then we need to think about how do I control distance, because like James mentioned, everybody normally from here gets your 56 out, gets your 60 out, full swing, and see what that does. But one time you full swing, you return it with 56 degrees of loft, it goes nicely 100 yards. The next time you return it with 60 degrees, it goes 80 yards. The next time you catch the bottom groove and it bullets through the back of the green. We want to be able to control your speed here. So speed is essential, and that's one big thing that isn't talked about. So obviously if I make a swing back to 9 o'clock, like James mentioned, my left arm parallel to the ground, from here it is now about turning my body. If I can turn my body and control that, you can see I can return that club into a nice pressured position, hands forwards, and that would get that coming out with a lot of spin. Because one big thing we need to talk about is, obviously James mentioned dynamic loft. So obviously dynamic loft, we want to, in pitching, get this club a little bit ahead. Reason being is that if we get a little bit of loft off this club, it's going to spend that little bit more time on the club face and it's going to grip ever so slightly. If we return the club face like this, the ball is going to slide up the face and we're not going to get as much spin. And everybody asks, oh, how can I get more spin? They think hit it harder, 60 degree, more loft. That is not going to work. So we want you to be able to go onto the driving range and hit shots. So start to go, okay, I just want to go 9 o'clock and through. How far does that give me? Let's see that might be 50 yards, that might be 60 yards. Depending on which club you've got, you can then start to dial in your scores. So for example here, I've got again 80 yards into this par 4. And for me here, this is more of a 3/4 swing. So I'm going to take my hands where I feel to my shoulder. If I do that from that setup, I should be able to get this launching pretty good and pretty close. I'll control the speed. And you'll see there, launch a little bit higher, but distance wise, absolutely perfect. And you see there, obviously divot wise, nice interaction with the ground, a nice shallow divot. I'm not taking huge craters as we see from a lot of golfers, because instantly for you to think that we need to get the ball to launch lower, we start to see people get it back here. Right, if I get it back there, I'm definitely going to be hitting down. I'm taking that loft off, and we start to see divots that are 2-3 inches deep and also around about, well, 12 inches long. Long divots, not going to keep John.
A foot long.
A foot long. Not going to keep Superintendent John very happy here at Woolley Park. So make sure we get that sorted. But then if I'm wanting to play a 50-yard shot, all I'm going to do is make a smaller motion. So for me, for example, this was 80 yards. I went to around about 3/4. I'm now going to do a 9 o'clock swing. Same setup, same kind of tempo, but this should give us a little bit less. And you see there nicely, that's giving me 50 yards, maybe just past. But you can see that's nice and easy in control. So one of the big things you see from your tour players is if they're hitting different shots, the tempo will look the same. So it's very unlikely that they'll come back here, they'll go, okay, yeah, back to that, and go through with a full speed. But how many times we see people go, okay, I'm just going to hit that little nice half shot now. Half a swing, nice and smooth. Well, yeah, that's not bad. It's not bad. That's a little bit long. That's gone straight over the flag. I thought I put a great swing on it, but that has gone long. We don't see that from tour players. All we want you to do is control your body speed. So Depending on the backswing length, if I'm going to 9 o'clock, if I'm going to my shoulder, that will give us a set distance. Do this with your wedges, do it with your 50, do it with your 52, depending on what you've got, do it with your 56 or 54. Start to dial in those numbers. We then can get the ball going closer from this distance. We're not hitting long drives and then duffing it. We're hitting long drives, hitting more greens, and getting good at golf.